here tonight to talk to you about what I do on my summer vacations these days. As Amy mentioned in the bio, I've spent all my career working in CRM, working in the United States. And it was about 12 years ago, well, actually, closer to 15 years ago, my wife and I went to Israel on a tour. And we said, well, this is really cool. Maybe we should come back and do archaeology. I hear they do that here. And so we went back in 2012. I'll mention that here in a moment, in a place called Ashkelon, which is on the coast, about 30 miles south of Tel Aviv, 8 miles from the Gaza Strip, which would not be a good place to be right now. And I worked there for 6 years, and 5 years, and then we moved to Tel Shimron, which is in the northern part of the country, in the Lower Galilee region. It's far removed from Gaza, but yet it's close to the Lebanon border, and they have some issues now with Hezbollah in Lebanon. So it's a interesting place to work. But I want to tell you about what I've been doing more recently, Tel Shimron. And just a little bit about me, other than what we just talked about. I grew up in Seattle. I did undergraduate work, went from Washington State College out of University. I did master's work at Idaho State University, and then I did my doctorate at the University of Colorado at Boulder, which is how I got here to Colorado. I married a Coloradan, and I've been here ever since. Professional archaeologist. I have done most of my work in Western U.S., but I did have an opportunity to go to Japan, and that was a great experience. As I said, the last 10 years, I've been excavating 2 sites, Ashkelon in Israel, Ashkelon 2012, 2016, and Tel Shimron 2017, 19. We did not work there in 2020 for obvious reasons. And we're there in 2021 through 2023 this year. I am hoping to go back this summer, but I don't know whether I will or not. So we're gonna take a trip. We're gonna get on an airplane. We're gonna go 7,000 miles and 15 hours travel to Israel. Just a couple of photos. This is me working at what turned out to be a child burial. And I understand this doesn't show up, but where my hand is, that wall behind me is a Persian wall dating to about 500 BCE. And by the way, I use the terms BCE and CE, which means before Common Era and Common Era, because it leave off the AD and the BC and the religious designations up there. This is about 500 BCE, overlying a destruction layer at 604 BCE. And this individual here, a child, and then the adults were over here, and I was excavating that child.
Gordy, please give me 1 second here. I think I have to do a different share screen to break the Zoom here.
Exactly. It's green.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, there you go.
Good?
Yep.
Thank you. Actually, it's interesting. The last presentation I gave to the Denver chapter was on Ashkelon. John, do you remember when I did that? It's about 10 years ago, maybe? Well, yeah. Anyway, so Tel Shimron, here I am digging what turned out to be a horse skull, or the mandible of the horse, in a situation that lends itself to more cultic activity rather than consumption. And I got working on it, and after a while I just gave up and brought in the experts. We had a lot of visitors to the site from the local communities. I'll show you the nearby town called Tinrat. They consider it their site. The Jewish town. In this part of Israel, there are Jewish settlements, or kibbutzes, and moshavs, and there are Arab villages, Arab Muslim, Arab Christians, and they all get along pretty well, which is really nice. So this is where Shimron is located. It's an ancient site that's been occupied at least 7,000 years, probably longer. It's located on the northern edge of the Jezreel Valley. That's that long flat area there, heading on an orientation northwest southeast. It is considered the breadbasket of Israel today. And it's in, again, the Lower Galilee region of Israel, and it's about 20 miles or 32 kilometers south and east of Haifa, major city on the Mediterranean. It is mentioned in the Hebrew Bible by this name, Shimron, and also as Shimon. It's in the boundaries of the tribe of Zebulun. In late antiquity, it was known by the name of Simonias, as mentioned by Roman Jewish historian Flavius Josephus, who lived from 37 to 100 CE, Common Era. It is also known in Arabic as Tel Shimron or Semania. And this is what the main point I want to make tonight about the site. It lies near or along some of the major trade routes in the Middle East, from the Saudi Arabian Peninsula to the Mediterranean, and it is one of the largest sites on that route. So it factored very heavily in ancient trade in this region. In particular, these dotted dashed lines you see here are ancient roads. One of the more famous sites, maybe you've heard of it, Megiddo. It is the origin of the word Armageddon, which means Har-Megiddo, which means the mountain of Megiddo, or the Armageddon, which would be the end of days, as mentioned in the Bible. That road then carries up through Shimron to another major town, a Roman city called Sepphoris. And Nazareth is here. And Shimron is at the west end of what's known as the Nazareth Ridge here. This is a view of Shimron. I have never seen it look like this. When I've been there, it's in the summer and it's brown, and you'll see in a moment. So this is really a gorgeous photo. This is the Tel. And this is the village or town of Timrot in the back here. And this is the Nazareth behind here. As you can see, before we started working there, it was used heavily by locals for motorcycle hill climbing, which didn't do a lot of good to the archaeological site. Turn around and look the other way. You look back out over the Jezreel Valley, which runs across the screen from left to right. And in the distance, that range of hills you can see there is the Carmel Range, Mount Carmel. And then on the far end to the west, I'll show everybody here, right there is the tall building, that's Haifa. So 20 miles to the west.
It looks like it's frozen. Really nice picture of your face on there.
Our apologies, guys. We're going to try and do this a different way. Let's try reloading.
So they're not seeing it, or they're not seeing what I'm.
It's like freezing. It like advances a few slides, and it's like it's freezing on it. Yeah, I'm not sure.
How do you fix that?
Yeah, I know. Well, it seems like a powerful issue. Maybe just
You can start from the beginning. I'll just go through it again.
There you go.
I did, but I have to close this. This is where we were before, wasn't it?
Yeah, I can advance forward from there.
Oh, okay, well. It's not showing full screen?
Yeah, try clicking, click you through first, let me see if, it advances. Yeah. It is advancing, yeah. It's just that it's okay, it's advancing now, it's just that the PowerPoint started showing like pretty much.
Once we pick up the file, right, we need to
What do you mean upper left?
When you share the screen,
Yeah? What do you mean?
go back to share screen.
Then we had new share.
You share.
Stop there.
Take permission to dig there.
The primary institution in Israel for doing that is called the Israeli Antiquities Authority. And you must apply for and be granted a permit to work on a site and certainly to dig a site. So at Ashkelon, the primary institution working there was Harvard Semitic Museum. And they had a permit to dig at Ashkelon. They were there for 31 years, and they finally stopped in 2016. The excavations at Tel Shimron are the principal institutions are Wheaton College out of Chicago, and they collaborate with several other universities in the United States who have professors who come and work at the site.
That's it, you got it.
They collaborated with Tel Aviv University. I think the Israeli Antiquities Authority, they like collaboration between outside institutions with local Israeli institutions.
Can you try dancing?
Nope. And unlike the United States, the antiquities in Israel, much like Britain, UK, are considered to be the property of the state of Israel. And so if you find antiquities, you have private property, it belongs to the state, it doesn't belong to you. Unlike here in the United States, private property, you have archaeology on your property, it's yours.
Yeah.
Okay, see if yours is working like what you said.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Now we're good. We got it. Yep.
Phew. Meanwhile, 2,000 years have passed.
Start from the beginning.
Okay, where did I leave off? Okay, so here's Tel Shimron. Looking back to the Jezreel Valley, and that's what it looks like most of the time. Okay, so get a sense of feel for the place. Sometimes it's best to compare it to something we know. So I thought it'd be interesting to show you how Israel stacks up against Colorado. It's Colorado, in the way there. I forget what it is, 287 miles wide. It is 276 miles north and south. And if you place Israel at the same scale, you could fit 5 Israels into the state of Colorado. It is it's about the same distance north to south, 263 miles, but it is much, much narrower, about 71 miles at its widest point. And the topography, good to know what you're working with. Generally, it's very varied topography from the coastal plain here on the Mediterranean. You move quickly into what's known as the Shephelah, which is Hebrew for lowlands, and it is low hills. Then you move into the Judean mountains, and they are certainly not mountains like we know of, but they are pretty steep hills. Then you dip down into the Jordan River Valley and go back up to the Transjordan Plateau, known in antiquity as Moab. The elevation of the Judean mountains is about nearly 3,400 feet or 1,000 meters. Then you dip down to 430 meters below sea level in the Dead Sea. It is the lowest elevation, land elevation on Earth. And the lake, the sea itself is approximately 300 meters deep. One of the interesting things is this area lies at the juncture of the African and the Arabian tectonic plate. And the Arabian plate is subject to the Arabian plate, and the Arabian plate is moving north and east. As a result, you get a lot of tectonic activity and earthquakes here, which, as you would imagine in antiquity, were quite prevalent, and even modern day. In February 2023, they had a huge earthquake. You may have remember reading about it. A 7.8 magnitude in southern Turkey and Syria, 7.5 in magnitude in Turkey, and this is that fault running all the way down the Jordan Valley here. So this had a lot of impact in antiquity as it does today. So just a few photos of those different regions. Here's your coastal plain, the Mediterranean on the right. Moving into the Shephelah, low hills. Then you get into the Judean mountains, and as you can see, they've got some substance to it. When I first went there to Israel, I was astounded by the breadth and depth of these hills, and people walked that way, or they rode animals. I figured people that walked from Nazareth to Jerusalem for the holy days and the Jewish holidays, they must have had calves like iron to walk 60 miles from Nazareth to Jerusalem and back. Then you dip down into the Jordan River Valley, very dry desert. This is, by the way, looking from Masada, which was besieged by the Romans 73 BCE. And this is one of the remnants of the Roman camps, for your information. Then you go back up to the Transjordan Plateau. I was just there in March. They call this the Grand Canyon of Jordan, and it is pretty spectacular. So just a little bit, we did the place, I'm going to do a little bit about the time. Won't go over all of this, but you've got from 10,000 BCE, 12,000 years ago in the Neolithic, through the Bronze, Iron ages, into the historic period, and of course you can go on more recent, beyond 400 Common Era. But just for instance, some of the notable events is the Israelites arrived from Egypt in approximately 1300 BCE. Some believe that they might have arrived in 1450, but nevertheless, by reckoning, they were in Israel by 1300 BCE. In 1000 during the Iron Age, this is the united monarchy of King David and King Solomon. And after the death of Solomon, a few years after that, the monarchy, the kingdom divided into two. The northern kingdom called Israel and the southern kingdom called Judah. Lasted until about 722 BCE, when the Assyrians came down and destroyed the northern kingdom of Israel, and scattered the 10 Jewish tribes, hence the 10 lost tribes of Israel, is where that comes from. Probably they didn't all go away. They probably remained there in smaller numbers, but for all intents and purposes, the kingdom of Israel, the northern kingdom, was done. Then the southern kingdom, Judah, ended in 586 when the Babylonians came in and took all the Jews, well, took not all the Jews, but took many of the Jews to Babylon. And then Cyrus the Great in 538 said, Jews, you can go home. You can go home now, and they did. But they were under the control of the Persian Empire at that time. And then finally, skipping ahead a little ways to the Roman occupation from 63 to 400, 63 BCE to 400 CE, the Jewish people revolted, and the Romans squashed that revolt and destroyed the temple in 70 CE, and the temple has never been rebuilt since. So looking at what we did, we have the Tel over here. So this is the highest point, the Acropolis. And then you have the compound where we worked, where we ate, and where we worked. We didn't have showers. We had showers back where we lived. But we had a nice place under the shade tent. And, you know, it's hot under that shade tent, but when you take away the shade tent, you're sure glad, you realize that you're sure glad you have it. Just an example, we ate very well. We had a local caterer who fed us, which was very, very nice. So we ate breakfast at 9 o'clock, we had lunch at 12, and we worked there doing not lab work, but washing pottery and other artifacts. And we went back to dinner. We stayed in the mashab. We stayed in the kibbutz. No, mashab, excuse me. Mashab is like kibbutz. It's a agricultural community, socialized agricultural community. And, you know, we didn't have enough adults sometimes to work on things. This is the daughter of one of the dig square supervisors who helped me. I was doing chipstone analysis there while I was there. So the first thing you do is you subdivide the site into you grid the site, and we gridded it into 100 meters by 100 meters, individual grids, and then we subdivided that into squares of 10 meters, and then if necessary, we can subdivide it further into meter squares if necessary. And that gave us several squares or grids that we're working on now, grid 92, grid 94, grid 23, 24, and then grid 33, broken down to upper and lower areas. Just a view out over the Jezreel Valley again, and you see grid 92 highlighted there. It's on the lower part of the hill in the lower city, and it is a Middle Bronze Age farmstead. So the primary occupation seems to be during the Middle Bronze. If you remember the chart back there, about 3000 BCE to 2000 to 1500 BCE. You have these settlements, so you have architecture, you have these rooms divided by these stone walls. And one of the interesting things is in the floors of these rooms, you have burials, both adult burials, full flexed burials, and you have infant burials in jars. So it reminds me of the Southwest, where people were buried in the floors of rooms in the American Southwest. So after 5 years now of excavations at grid 92, we have this Middle Bronze Age occupation, not much of anything in between, and then some some Hellenistic and Roman stuff here. Now, we haven't dug the entire grid, so we may fill in the gap, or we may not. We'll see. Moving up or over just slightly on the lower part, we have grid 94. And during the Ptolemaic kingdom, this is a Hellenistic village. So during the Greek era, it was a kingdom of the Ptolemaics, 305, 30 BCE. Shimron was one of the more important stops along a trade route. Here again is that map of the road between Megiddo, Shimron, or Cyprus, and Megiddo or Legio. Just a view for after the end of the season, that year, we take down the shade tent, and this is the excavation where we've been working. One of the interesting things, again, here is that horse skull buried in the site for probably cultic reasons rather than, as I said, for having been eaten. And here we have this Hellenistic occupation here. Again, it hasn't been completely excavated, so this earlier period may be filled in as time goes on. We're moving up slope now, about midway up slope to grids 23 and overlaps 23 and 24. And we have a Roman era Jewish village. And the Roman era part of it is here in the foreground. And then beyond, well, and one of the reasons we know that it's Jewish occupation, we have a mikveh. Mikveh is a ritual bath. Jewish people have those today, and had one here in the site. There's a street here. We have ritual stone vessels that are ritual vessels rather than ceramics. So we're pretty confident. We know it's Roman era, about 1st to 3rd, 4th century CE. And then we move down. Oh, okay, show me again. I'm excavating here a Roman era, probably a whole vessel in pieces. What it looks like there. Many more pieces, so probably had the entire vessel that's broken on the floor of this particular room. Then moving to the north, we have this much deeper area, which is an earlier occupation in the Iron. So 9,000 years before that other Roman occupation that we saw, Roman era occupation. And you see these stone alignments of stone. What those are is what they think is what's called a tripartite, broken into 3 segments building, pillared building, that was probably a government building. And these were often found along trade routes at topographic bottlenecks. So again, it says something about the importance of Shimron as a stop on those trade routes. It was destroyed again by the Assyrians in 734 BCE. Here we have that same chronology. We've got the Iron Age, and then we've got the Roman era and Hellenistic, Roman, and then some Byzantine following it, and then later periods there too. Finally, we come to the grid 33, and this is turning out to be extremely interesting, and the finds are incredible. It's a cultic structure of some sort. It's a large stone structure, as I said, probably cultic from all evidence. There was a large platform up here, and as you'll see, there are other things going on here. There's a pit where there were thousands of animal bones that had been sacrificed. So they are doing something up here on top of it at big problems. And you'll notice here the scaffolding in grid 33 lower. This is what it looks like. This was this year. They have 5 meters. This is a passageway, and it's mud brick. Mud brick is what we would call a building. It's bricks made out of mud with straw and other plant materials added to it. This is 5 meters of mud brick, the passageway, and there are steps down to the bottom. This is what it looked like this year. Last year, they had excavated down, and all of a sudden what they found here, and I've outlined it, is the top of an arch. And when they excavated this, looking at it head on, they excavated it this year. This is that arch. Now the top here is what was here. You can see the stairs leading down. They stopped here because you can see the stones. They were afraid if they continued, those stones would fall in. So next year, if we go back, or when we go back, they'll excavate it from the other side. But these are the corbel, meaning that the wall slowly angles into the top to form what's called a false arch. And the white lines are not the mortar between the bricks, they're actually painted on it for some reason. We don't know why. They've done that. But we're anxious to find out where the stairs go. We have suspicions, I won't share those with you now, but we have suspicions that they might be leading. We'll see. So we have that Middle Bronze Age here at the Acropolis, same time period as that lower at grid 92. Then there's a pit or a couple pits that are Iron Age, but that's it. So after the Middle Bronze, that upper Acropolis, the complex up there seems to not have been used after that, all the way up until the Mamluk in the 12th century, 13th century CE, buried up on top. We've found dozens of burials, Mamluk burials on top, reusing, but that's all they're doing, using it for burials. And then if you put all of those chronologies together, you can see that we've got, from all four grids, we've got representation from almost back to early Bronze Age, greater than 3,000, 4,000 BCE, all the way through Mamluk, and then there's modern occupation on the surface. So that's Shimron. Goodbye from Israel for now, and then our good friends, the goats. Question?
In the Middle Bronze Age, you mentioned huge number of animal bones, as sacrificial.
It was in the Iron Age.
Iron Age?
Oh, excuse me, it wasn't Middle Bronze, yes.
Middle Bronze?
Yes.
All right, is there any evidence for human sacrifice at that time?
We haven't found any, no.
Is there any evidence anywhere for human sacrifice?
At this site?
In the Middle Bronze Age in general?
I want to say yes, but I can't cite a place where we found it. I mean, you read about it in the Hebrew Bible, but archaeologically, I'm not aware personally of it.
An interesting time period. Thank you.
Sure.
Roughly,
Oh,
how long are your field seasons?
7 weeks. Actually 6 weeks with about a week, half a week on either end. Up until a 3 years ago, I was going over there only for 3 weeks. I was still working at the time, and that was all the vacation time I could scrape together. But starting in 2021, I've been going for the full season, so 7 weeks.
I was gonna say, I don't know if it's too early to tell, but you guys, since it's in a crossroads area, do you guys have an idea of what kind of population size you see through time periods, like if there's an increase or decrease?
No, I don't know that we've fathomed that yet. I don't know. I think maybe the dig director might be, I mean, we've got the lower city, the moving up slope. So it was it was one of the larger cities in the area. Actual populations, Stacy, I couldn't tell you, but good sign.
How big is the team together?
Well, the team consists of basic staff. We have the 2 dig directors and rig supervisors, square supervisors. There's probably about 20-30 people staff. I'm now on the staff. I'm doing as I mentioned before, the chipstone. The remainder of the crew is mostly students. And this year we probably had about 80 people working. We have volunteers. I started first time I went to the volunteers. Maybe 10 or 15 people who volunteer. Most of them are students. In 2021, we had about 40 people. That was the year following COVID, and we had a smaller crew. We had a test here before we went. We had a test at Denver Airport in Tel Aviv. When we got there, and then we were quarantined for about 3 or 4 days to make sure we were okay. And then we all were, and then we had a test on our way out before we came home. Last year, 2022, was fine, and 2023 was fine too. Barry?
Each one of these travels for the students, the workers, everything.
Yes. Yes, they pay for the privilege. They pay to work there and they pay to get there. So it's not a cheap adventure. It's about, what is it, about $3,500 to go there, and then add on what, air flight maybe about $2,000. So it's not a inexpensive endeavor.
I think so. Okay.
Been talking to me.
Yes, somebody is, got their computer unmuted.
No, they're not asking the question.
I don't know. Are there any questions from people online?
Thank you very much, Will.
Okay.
Thanks, Bree.
Craig, did you want to,
Yeah, let's introduce the new board members.
yeah, and to say farewell to the ones that are stepping down?
Yep. Yeah, so thanks, yeah, Gene and Stacy will be back next year, and Amy will be in a different capacity. So let's see, I see a few folks here. Beth, if you guys could come up and we'll just say hi on the screen real quick. Amy and Joe, I guess you guys can't do. Michelle, we got everybody here. Alex, yeah. What, you guys don't want to go? Come on.
Hi, I'm back.
Everybody has to say hi. It's both. No, it's both, everybody. Good, you just say. briefly.
Hi, I'm Beth Fisher, and I'm going to be the PAC coordinator, whatever that turns
CAS
out.
representative.
PAC representative, whatever that turns out to be for next year.
CAS representative / PAC coordinator.
And then we'll just keep adding other duties on.
He says it's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll be discussing.
Craig Degel, the president for next year.
I'm Carrie Smith, I will be the secretary for next year. Hello, I am Alex, I will be the membership secretary.
And you've seen me before. I'm Amy. I'll be leaving the VP position and just staying on as director.
I am Michelle Giametti, the treasurer.
Joe Garrett, and I'm continuing as one of the members of the board. Okay, thank you all. We'll see you in January.
Thank you all for
They're driving forces.
Well, it's gotta be done.